the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me. Aren't you?
Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
Just been revoked.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
You want answers!
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Because it is my name!
I see, Dave.
Today, Junior?
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? What?
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
The price is wrong, bitch.
Right. Welcome to Critics Without Being a Cynic. And if we have anyone watching, this was very last minute thrown together thanks to one of us actually, being prepared and ready to go, and the other one not so much. Yep, it is 100% me at fault for that. I was going to be lazy, and Leslie was not allowing me to be lazily.
Sorry.
Mixing your name in with it now. So yeah, we did have stuff planned, thankfully, to talk about this week. So at least we're prepared. We have stuff to discuss. As you can see, we got the Adam Project to talk about. We got Picard episode 2 and 3 to talk about, as well as the Obi Wan trailer. And we're gonna kind of play, I think, the Obi Wan trailer on here, but we're not gonna play the audio just so we don't get hit with copyright. And we're gonna kind of like, because we've both seen the trailer, we're gonna kind of talk about things that we pick up, things that we notice. I know that there's some controversy over how the Inquisitors look, so I'm sure we will be discussing that as well. So, as usual, always, like, share, subscribe, especially if you enjoy the content. And to make sure that I want to do live streams more regularly on a Saturday than be lazy. I think as Leslie knows, because we work together at our day jobs, it's been pretty busy and stressful period of time for us at our jobs, and I think that's part of, like, I was just like, nah, I don't want to do any of this today, but.
Our day jobs, it's one of those, like, I feel like we always say it's busy, but, like, we had a lot of people, like, retire and or, like, move to different departments within our company.
Right.
So there's just, like, the same amount of work and sometimes even increasing amounts of work and less people to actually do it, so.
And it just seems to compile and just keep getting worse and worse and worse as time goes by.
Yeah.
More responsibility comes on us and everything like that. But
Which is like, I got up and worked like 5 hours this morning. Yay!
And I did not. I played video games. I am getting to, and this won't really mean anything to you, but anyone watching that it plays Elden Ring, I've been getting massively addicted to it, and even though I'm terrible, and I've spent like 33 hours just purely farming souls to level up my character, and even then I'm not good enough, but hey, I'm progressing slowly. It's probably going to take me like 2 years to actually beat the game, but yeah, that's kind of why this was a little rushed, and I honestly don't expect,
last minute.
yeah, and I don't expect any big turnout for this one at all, but we shall.
It'll be the biggest turnout we've ever had.
I mean, hey, I won't complain if that's the case, but so what topic do you think we should start with first?
Let's start with Obi Wan. I feel like
that's kind of where I figured we would go, so I'm going to go ahead and, as long as it doesn't just immediately start playing here. Yeah, we're already on mute. Okay, no. Pause. taken care of. There we go. Even though it's off kilter for some reason, and I will fix that. Not that it matters too much, especially when it goes full screen here. So like we said, we're gonna probably pause and talk about stuff as we come along with it. No audio, just for the sake of, because trailers nowadays, which used to be safe to play on YouTube or anything, seem to now, even when people are reacting, are getting like hit with copyrights. So
yeah, I think it's the music, and I don't know, the music industry is just so racked with issues,
right,
that like I don't have any good solutions for them. I know that they're like, it's kind of like they're trying so hard, you know, like that they've now are trying too hard, and they're hitting everything that maybe even things that they shouldn't, you know.
Right, we had one slight experience with that with one or maybe it was even both of them with the Dark Pictures anthology video games, where when we got to the credits, so we had no issue playing throughout the rest of the game. Not even the opening song at the beginning was even hit, but the end credits song got hit with copyright claims afterwards. And, not like it matters that much because we're not monetized, so we don't have to worry about that. And it doesn't really impact the channel too much at this moment. But yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, come on, like, it's not like I'm trying to rip off on the music or anything. But we figured we better be safe than sorry, especially when we're still new to the whole live streaming. So enough babbling. Let's go ahead and get started with it. Now, I think my big theory about this was that we're not spending all our time on Tatooine. And I think, oh, good. Well, at least the captions are on, so you can kind of get some of what the dialogue is.
I like that we're doing like a Duel of the Fates that's playing with this going on.
Yeah. And it like even just throwing young Luke in there, I think is kind of neat too.
Well, this right here, I love this, that it's like the sands of Tatooine, and then it's like dusting across the Lucasfilm logo. Love that.
So I think here we're coming up to, I'm excited, quite frankly.
I'm excited to see them.
But
he looks weird. What else do you want to say? He looks weird.
Well, and so there were a multitude of different things I've seen kind of come into factor with this. And for one, and I don't know this, maybe you're more, because I know you're more in tune to like the Clone Wars and Rebel stuff and stuff like that I'm not as tied into. But like everyone is saying he's Utapawan, and I don't ever remember his species being identified, especially as Utapawan. Which were the guys that, like when Obi Wan goes to track down the...
Right. He does look like them.
He looks like them, but
nothing, as far as I know, has ever been like strictly said this is where he's from, but he does very much look like them.
So that's the major complaint I've seen is like he looks nothing... Well, he looks like them, but he looks nothing like them in comparison to like
the movie
Revenge of the Sith.
The thing for me that looks weird about him is that his head looks so wide and thick.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it needs to look skinnier.
Right, because it is like in the context of the show, it is longer. It's more elongated than it is like normal.
Well,
looking.
that's also a difficult thing when people are trying to compare to Rebels, because Rebels is purposefully stylized.
Yeah.
Like his name is escaping me right now, but it's his style. And it's purposeful, like they chose that and to stylize the entire cartoon to his art style.
Are you talking about Ralph McQuarrie or?
There we go. Yes.
Okay.
That was a purposeful choice. So yes, it's a cartoon, but also it's a purposely stylized cartoon.
Right.
Take on all of those. So I think if you have that image of just the Rebels one in your head, of course it's not going to match that. So I think he could potentially look a little bit more like Revenge of the Sith characters. It's just for me, his face is like a little too wide. Like they need to like they went this way and they should have gone like a little skinnier.
What I read, and whether this is true or not, or they're just coming up with excuses to, excuse bad makeuping, it was because of the heat and where they were filming, and they didn't want the actors to get, heat stroke and stuff like that, so they made some compromises. And quite frankly, like, yeah, you're making that jump from cartoon animation to live action. I don't expect it to be a one-to-one comparison.
Right. It just, you'll just get over the fact that he looks a little funky.
Yeah. Because, I mean, even the other one, the one with the hat, they've also complained about as well.
I thought he even looked better. I don't know if that's supposed to be the one from Rebels or not, though.
See, I even love that we got Joel Edgerton back as Uncle Owen. And I believe the African-American actress that's playing an Inquisitor, I can't remember if she was introduced in Fallen Order or not. But this has a real potential to have Cal Kestis from that game potentially show up. But this is where, like I was talking about, I don't think he's going to be solely on Tatooine throughout most of the show.
It doesn't look like it.
Which makes me happy, because you sit there and you go, how do you do even just a 6-episode miniseries and just stay on Tatooine and have him stay isolated, not like do anything with his Jedi abilities and stuff like that?
And not even talking about just Obi Wan, but the fact that we just got off Boba Fett and we did nothing but kind of sit on Tatooine for,
right.
It just kind of, you sat there with a couple seasons of The Mandalorian, and we sat there with Boba Fett. It's kind of like, we're kind of getting to the place now where we want to, ship out, go explore a little bit. Like, not freaking everything happens on Tatooine. Like, how does everything important happen there when it's, like, in the Outer Rim and it's, pretty much nowhere?
Right, and
like,
and there's nothing saying that he stayed on Tatooine the entire, 19 years. You know? So, I mean, I think it allows for more story growth and potential. And I know everyone's out, because it's been the kind of funny meme, is how does he go from Ewan McGregor to Alec Guinness in 19 years?
Right.
But hey, maybe watching a young Skywalker does it, So I think that was pretty much it to the trailer.
I do like that they have his lightsaber as the eye.
Oh, yeah.
At Kenobi. I like that.
So yeah, it's coming up here pretty soon. I mean, I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be, what did it say? Did it say March or May? I think it said May. Yeah, May 25th. Yeah, May. So, very excited. And I know it says limited series, but there's rumblings that maybe they'll do more. And there's, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna, before I forgot, I wanted to talk about the fifth. I don't know if that's the fifth brother or fifth sister or seventh brother. No, it's the fifth brother and seventh sister. I don't know if that's them or not, like from Rebels.
I think it is.
Well, my only thing about that being them is suffering from the issue of I already know what happens to them.
Yeah, but I mean, we already know what happens to Obi Wan too. So.
Well, right, but he's the point of the show. And we have them, and it's kind of like, well, I already know what happens to those two. Like,
I'm trying to remember where I know they popped up in here.
Yeah, he's only there for like a second.
Here's her, I think.
Yeah, but I don't feel like that's the same girl. But I do think that he looks like the fifth brother. With his funky right there. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure, more will come, and I mean, this is the only trailer we've got right now. So and quite frankly, I don't need any other trailer. I'm
gonna watch Kenobi. Yeah. I don't need another trailer to convince me to watch it. Like you said you were doing it. I didn't even need a trailer at all. Just tell me when it's coming up, When are you dropping it? The other controversy that we were hearing about was whether or not he's going to meet with Darth Vader. I don't know if he will or not. I don't know. Because I was personally thinking, just just me theorizing, everybody's hearing Darth Vader, that, his breathing over the, what is they played at the end, I think, the very, very end.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean to me that Obi-Wan and Vader are going to have on-screen fight. It could, but hear me out, when they're like, this is going to be a showdown of the century, blah, 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 but I don't feel like they've said between who are we going to get Maul back?
No. They're...
Well, he doesn't have to, he knows he doesn't have to, he only learns that he's on Tatooine in Rebels. And obviously this is set a little before that, so he doesn't have to meet him there.
So,
you know, he can meet him off-world somewhere.
Originally, because there's always controversy with the fans of the show and I don't like Kathleen Kennedy. I want to be very clear about that. So I'm not like Kathleen Kennedy guardian or anything like that. But they originally had Maul intended to be in the show. They rewrote the scripts because the scripts were too dark, so they wanted to be more hopeful. And they replaced Maul with Vader because allegedly, like, Ray Park did some stuff that Kathleen Kennedy or people at Disney were like, nope, we're not having him reprise his role.
Well, they had him do the motion capture for Clone Wars.
It was post Clone Wars. So, like, it's happened since season 7. I mean, I'm not too familiar on it. It has to involve...
I don't keep up with anything happening in...
Right. It involves an
eye.
ex-wife and, like, a dirty divorce and stuff like that, and him being a little vindictive. But, like, honestly, I don't care because that's his personal life, and, you know, if I were to see Ray Park in anything, I'm not going to say, oh, hey, there's that SOB, you know, who blah 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 blah. Like, I'm looking at him for his technical aspect as a stunt coordinator and stunt fighter. But yeah, and so here...
Well, they couldn't just have, what's his name do it? I mean, obviously it wouldn't be the same level of stunt.
Sam Witwer?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're not privy to those conversations, apparently, so, you know.
You know, that's one of the... You just get a really good body double to do the stunt and let Sam Witwer do it.
Yeah.
He's the voice anyway.
It's one of those things of, like, I kind of want... After I see what we get in May, I do kind of wish or hope that we could see what those original scripts are. Especially, like, if the show bombs and it's complete garbage. Like, I want to know if it would have been a better show. But I think... because even Ewan's talked about it where... you know, it was, like, electric to be on set and filming scenes with Hayden again. I think, like, we'll see probably a duel between them, but I'm thinking it's going to be more along the lines of a Force Dream or, like, the cave on Dagobah, where they're not actually meeting person to person because of the constraints of A New Hope. So we'll see. I mean, the thing they have to be really careful, and so far they've been pretty respective, is canon and timeline. There have been some things that have gotten a little wonky, but for the most part, nothing's broken a timeline completely. That I think, like, that's the route that they're going to go with it. Now that I look at this, he looks more Utapauan because of the teeth and all the lines.
Yeah, but, and I even think that the image from the trailer looks like that. His head is wider.
And it's more shrunk down because his head, like, comes to a curve here versus all the way up here. But again, like, that comes to the constraints of, well, you've got an actor, you've got to watch out for the health of the actor when you're filming, and if they can't move and do the action scenes, well, you got to make some compromises. So, you know, regardless, I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be better than what people are maybe afraid, because I know a lot of people were upset when they heard about the rewrites and stuff like that. But, you know, we're living in a pretty doom and gloom time that something being a little bit more hopeful doesn't upset me, you know? So, yeah, it's neither here nor there for me. I'll judge it when it comes out, and I will, you know, if I think it's crap, I'll say it's crap. If I think it's good, I'll say it's good. I think that's where we're kind of at a detriment with our podcast, because we won't take those hard line in the sand that most people...
Shock jock.
Yeah. Just like, oh, so we can say this.
We got to get you to click our link.
Exactly. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I will judge it based on the content of when it comes out, and I can view the series as a whole, and therefore determine whether or not it's good or it's just complete garbage. But I right now, based off of what we've seen, I don't have any inclination that it's going to be complete trash. So I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, that's just kind of a surface view of, hey, we saw the trailer, and I think this is going to be potentially really good. I'm really excited for it, and I think at least I know, like, Ewan McGregor is going to bring his A game to it, even if the script is complete crap. I think his performance is going to save it to some extent for me.
And I just, when you said that, I was just thinking, see the prequel trilogy to see how Ewan McGregor brings his A game.
Well, and I still, I mean, I like him better now, but I still just remember when I went in theaters and saw Phantom Menace, I was like, oh, I hate him. I don't like him as Obi Wan. And then I don't know what, because he's done nothing outside of, okay, he was a Padawan in Phantom Menace, and then he's a Jedi Master for the rest that we see him. So there really was no real big transition change in what he did with his character, or even acting. But like something happened when I got to Attack the Clones where I was like, oh no, he's fantastic. Like never get rid of him.
He got the costume change. He didn't have the terrible haircut.
Yeah, I don't understand the Padawan haircut, but that's whatever. All right, so let's move on to our next topic, because I honestly don't know how long we'll spend on it. We'll probably spend more time on Adam Project than anything. But let's talk about Picard, Season 2, Episodes 2 and 3. I think so far right now, I think it's been good. I'm not overly disappointed. You and I talked about episode 3. You saw it before I did, and you kind of gave me an idea of what to expect. But I still, even with what you had said, I still wasn't completely disappointed with it. But let's.
Yeah, I wasn't disappointed with it. I just didn't feel like it did much.
And which we don't disagree. We both don't really disagree on. But let's talk about episode 2 first. Once I pull it up here on my phone.
Yeah, episode 2 was kind of establishing where everybody is after Q, snapped them all.
Right.
The Borg Queen was assimilating the Stargazer.
So episode 2 is called Penance, and this is where Picard and Q really have, I mean, it really just opens up with their whole kind of discussion about what's going on. And the main thing to take away from this scene between John Delancey and Patrick Stewart is Q is not okay.
Oh, he's a little off.
Yeah, he's a lot more angrier, and I think a little bit more demented. Because he was always a little bit, demented, but I think he's even more so now.
Yeah, I was trying to remember where we left off with Q, because we left off with him in Voyager. Mm-hmm. And he had his kid, and then there was like that civil war and that trial of the other Q who wanted to be allowed to die. And they had that whole trial thing, which allowed him to then go ahead and die. And they had his kid because, like, I guess there hadn't been another Q in how many ever millennia. So it was like shaking things up like that. But that's kind of like where we left them. So I'm not really entirely sure. I'm like, does that have an effect on them? The being allowed to die, now knowing that you can procreate. Like, he aged himself up on purpose to match Picard. So, like, I don't feel like it's an aging thing with him. Unless something has happened with the Q that they now want to age. I'm not entirely sure. Because I'm always trying to figure out, what is Q trying to teach Picard this time? Like, teach... what's his lesson he's trying to do? Right,
because even in episode 2, he's like, you still haven't learned. Like, you still haven't learned the lesson, and whatever the grand lesson is for him. But you bring up an interesting point, and I would find this would be interesting. I don't know that they're going to go this route, but what if he's the only Q? Because I don't remember the specifics of that trial and that episode from Voyager, because it's been a while, and I haven't, on my revisit of Voyager, I haven't gotten that far yet. But what if he's the last Q? What if the rest of them decided? Yeah, what if the rest of the continuum decided, hey, we do want to age, we do want to die, and now at this point he's the last Q, and it's driven him insane? Because I get the idea he's either got like a form of dementia or insanity that is causing him to lash out in this type of manner or form. So it's going to be really interesting. Wonder.
The only thing about that is I wonder about his son. Mm-hmm. I'm like, why would the son, who hasn't even lived as long as he has, do that?
Right. Yeah. Like I said, it's a theory that I have. I don't know if that's going to be what they actually decide to do with it or not.
Yeah, because I don't even know if they'll mention that or not, because I don't know that Picard ever knew about the kid. It was just Janeway. I don't know that he ever,
So what's also really good, like we had kind of predicted, we expected episode 2, and you can go back to our live stream where we talked about episode 1, that episode 2 would spend pretty much its entire time in this new future, or new timeline rather, and having them figure out what's going wrong. But what they do differently than what we are normally used to, because you go, oh, it's going to be the mirror universe and blah 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 blah. Yeah. And then we find out, actually, no, this is their timeline, but something has changed specifically in their timeline. It's no longer the Federation, it's the Confederation. Earth is hanging on, like, on life support, and they have just done nothing but conquer, which I don't know. I don't think people liked this when I saw some people talking about it, but, like, portraying Picard as being the cutthroat kind of killer general. And I liked that because it is so counter to the Picard we know. So when he has
that's
the horror
whole point.
The horror when he sees the trophy room, and you have all the skulls, and you have Martog's skull and all of that, which of course I saw people going, "Oh, it's the Discovery version of Klingon. It doesn't match, Martog's skull from DS9 and Bob." I'm like, okay, it's a skull. Just get over it.
Calm down.
Yeah,
it's a prop. Like, let's calm down.
They do have an issue with something with the Klingons, and that's why we haven't seen Worf or anything. But like, just deal with it, please. Like, I get it. Discovery left a bad taste in everyone's mouth, and it's getting better. I've watched the first 2 episodes of the newest season of Discovery, and I don't hate it, but there's still issues with it. The same with any show. I mean, this show is not perfect either, but I think that this one still tries to stay in line with Next Generation and sticking with that timeline. So we also find out, Seven is the president of the Confederation, and my God, I hated her husband. And all because, like, even for, like, the most part, I was even going, is this her husband? Because, like, he's her aide, right? Like, he's not really anyone of power, and he follows her around everywhere. But I got so annoyed by dear. And if I have time enough, I will make a supercut from the episode on how many times he calls her dear throughout the episode. It was just that annoying for me. But we get wherever everyone kind of else is at. We see Eleanor is kind of like, of course, everyone's all not sure what's going on. Eleanor is kind of part of a rebel cell. Rafi is a commander with, like, hunting them down. Rios is basically killing Vulcans in space and destroying Vulcan. And Girardi is working at the Capitol or whatever. And of course, everyone rightfully confused. Picard being the only one who kind of knows what's going on. And we also get, Execution Day?
It's Eradication
Day. That's it. So, they're celebrating their...
eradication of their enemies.
Right. And which, again, like, it's so counter to... It's even, I think, worse than the Terran Empire. Because even though the Terran Empire was humans first, they just enslaved races. They didn't just eradicate them. Whereas, yeah, you have some Romulan slaves and stuff here, but their real goal was like, no, we're wiping everyone else.
Wiping them
Only
out,
humans are allowed. So it's really nice that it doesn't fall into that easy route of just going, oh, we're just going to do another mirror universe episode. And I've really liked it. And, not to, just because as the episode goes along, they find out that it is their actual timeline thanks to the Borg Queen that they have locked away.
Yeah, of all the things, I mean, I guess I should have known from the trailer, but I was like, I wasn't expecting the Borg Queen to be rolled out in a tube,
right?
Detached from her legs.
and she's kind of split
because
of the not only creepy, but like split because of the distortion within time and being disconnected from the hive. But she is the one who can tell them that there has been a temporal incursion or whatever that has caused this divergence within the timeline. So the plan becomes, let's steal the Borg Queen. And I love that Picard references Kirk's maneuver, to go back in time.
To go around, at that scene, because I think we're getting into like episode 3 and 2 together, but in that scene where they're waiting to get teleported, and they're like, he's standing there with the phaser, waiting, kind of like, how long can I draw this out? But I just like that. It's just kind of the vibes that I was getting from that scene was like, it reminds me of Farpoint or Farpoint Station, whatever that first episode is, where we first meet Q, when he at the trial and everybody's like, rah, rah, and cheering and screaming and stuff. And I'm like, I know this isn't the same time, like, because it's obviously a different point in the timeline and all that good stuff. But I just like the vibe of it. You have this angry, bloodthirsty mob who's all cheering while, a few people are kind of standing. It just kind of reminded me of that. And I just like the aesthetic of, like, we have Q, we have the Borg, we're having all these classic Next Generation things. And this scene kind of even has that same feel from the first episode.
Yeah, it actually, now that you bring it up, I didn't even think about it. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. Like, it does give that vibe of kind of being that bloodthirsty crowd who just wants to see blood spilled, essentially.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they start, like, quieting down the longer he takes to pull the phaser and shoot her. But the one thing, and this is kind of... Now, I wonder, because it's shown here in the trailer, I wonder if the Watcher is a Vulcan... because like
I don't know.
And I only say that because it just popped up here. Once it works its way back around in the loop, you'll see it. But
like with the little kid.
Yeah, I don't know how I like that concept. That there's someone in 2024?
2024.
Yeah, that is observing. Or is using time travel technology. Like, I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know if a Vulcan makes sense to me for that, because I feel like they're such rule followers, and I feel like that would be breaking some sort of rule for them.
Well,
unless it's one of those, like, I'm trying to figure out what happened to save my people.
Right, like, because if you get it, go back to Enterprise and you have the temporal wars and stuff like that.
Right.
It could be something revolving around that, but yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. It feels very kind of contrived to just be like, okay, we're going to spend about 2 episodes, maybe in 2024, maybe 3 episodes, and the focus is finding this Watcher and having them help us fix whatever went wrong, because we still don't know what happens. We just know something happens to set them down this path, and only the Watcher is going to be someone who knows how to fix it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm okay with that concept. I just don't know how I feel about it being a Vulcan.
Yeah, and
they'll have to. I'm sure they'll flesh it out and explain it to us in the coming episodes.
See, and like this is the only reason why. Kind of why. What else would a Vulcan be doing there, right? Like,
yeah,
it's. I mean, again, it's pure speculation. I just. It's whatever, you know. It's until they tell us who the Watcher is. You know, I'll reserve my judgment on it. But it's one of those things where I'm like, it's a little contrived. But we'll see how it goes.
Well, just as it's scrolling through, and we can see that some of these things are obviously going to be happening here in the next episode or the episode after, like getting Rios out of jail because he just got arrested. The thing with episode 3 for me is that I just don't feel like we did anything except more exposition. Not necessarily exposition, but just, okay, now we're here. Now we're together, like getting this plan. And we're kind of going here and doing this and doing that, but we're all just kind of like nothing. I don't feel like a lot happens. It was just a setup episode.
Yeah. So to round off episode 2, so we can go into episode 3. You know, basically it ends. They're on the La Serena and they're getting ready to go. And of course, the husband and his trio of guards manage to beam on board, and that's where the episode ends. I wasn't quite thrilled with the episode ending there. It made for like a good cliffhanger, and it made me want to go, okay, I want episode 3, but I also just didn't. It felt like there needed to be about another 5 minutes of the show before we ended. It just felt very kind of abrupt. They pull the phasers, you cut the credits. It is what it is, but
yeah.
So then getting into episode 3, you know, they quickly resolve that. We do the time travel. We crash.
Yeah, because we're doing the making a plan. Here, you're going here, you're going there.
Eleanor, we did forget to kind of talk about that, and also spoilers if you have not watched.
Major spoilers.
Yeah, episode 2 or 3. Eleanor gets shot, and Eleanor basically dies. I don't think he's going to remain dead, but you know, as far as we know, he's dead.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy to me that I feel like he can't remain dead because it's like second episode of, you know, basically it's like season 2, and it's like, man, did the actor have to drop, or, you know, is this just like he's going to be back at the last half of the season?
And I feel like even like with some of these scenes we're seeing in the trailer, like I don't feel like we've seen those scenes yet. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because all of these, I feel like most of these can be from the first half. There's only a few that I feel like might be from the later half of the
those would be, I would say, the Dr. Soong and Q bits.
Yeah, and Dr. Girardi in the red dress.
Yeah.
And that comes across.
So, like, yeah, we'll there's definitely more to come, for sure. And,
yeah.
So, the big kind of split between the crew is Picard wants to protect the Borg Queen, because she's kind of their only way back, as far as they know. You know, it's their only known way of getting back. While the rest are kind of not thrilled with that, especially Seven, and definitely Rafi. So we split up the crew. Rios, Rafi, and Seven go into... Where are they at? Are they in Los Angeles?
Los Angeles, yeah. Los Angeles.
And Girardi and Picard stay aboard the ship trying to revive the Borg Queen.
Can I just say, like... I just feel like it's so very stereotypical that Rios just ends up in, like, an immigration clinic. Like... I'm like, well, really? I don't know. I'm like, it might turn out good, but also I'm like, really? He's the one. I get it, but also, come on.
Let me take it a step further. Why is he the one who gets, you know, teleported wrong to where he immediately has to fall and land a concussion? Like,
right?
You know, Rafi's fine. She takes out the mugger. Seven's fine. She gets labeled a superhero. Rios gets a freaking concussion. Like,
right. Like, immediately.
What happened?
Because I feel like they're purposely, I mean, obviously when you're writing the story, there has to be different complications that happen. But I feel like writing him getting the concussion and being taken in is the complication that happens so that they can go, now he's here with a little low income clinic, blah blah blah, that's gonna have an immigration thing, and he's gonna get arrested. He's Hispanic or Latin or whatever, and ha 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 ha. And I'm like, is that really all there is to it? Because there's got to be more to it. Otherwise, it's marketing people checking boxes, and that's my big thing. That's my big thing with when I complain about lazy writing or whatever. It's not that I don't want to hear diverse stories. It's that I want you to do it well and not go, I have to check a box, so I have a gay character, and I have a lesbian character, and I have a this character, and I have an African, and they're just going check, 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 instead of actually writing something good.
So you're bringing up
Sorry.
No, you're fine, because you're bringing up a point I kind of want to make, because I don't disagree with your assessment of the setup for that, but I really did enjoy the scenes. I
like the scene.
But it was a little too real world, real time problems that like kind of meant to preach to you, but I also didn't feel like it was overly preachy. But yeah, let's take the Hispanic actor character, let's stick him in an illegal clinic, or
just low income clinic
that's doing quote unquote illegal work, even though I don't agree with illegal immigration, but like at the same time, I am not going to denigrate a clinic that is taking it upon themselves to help them out, like with healthcare and stuff like that, because you know, people get hurt, people need help, and I understand that plight. But it does feel contrived, and it is one of the points where it's like, because it still bugged me that Rios is immediately the one who gets hurt, is, you know, he's the one who's getting arrested, he's the one they're going to have to break out of jail, whereas everyone else is like, hey, we're fine. Like, I disarmed this guy, and I stole his, like, $400, even though he's a mugger and probably shouldn't have, like, $400, but whatever.
Right, like, I guess he's been doing a lot of mugging today.
But, yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, it was a little too real world, and I'm not saying Star Trek hasn't done real world issues before, because they have, but they've been more clever.
They always have.
But they've been more clever about it.
I just want there to be more to it than just that. Like, haha, let's do this and show this. Like, if that's all there is to it, then that's really disappointing. If there's a little more to it, a little more, like, we get something else out of it, or something, I don't know, a connection to somebody, maybe to this kid in the woods, I don't know.
Well,
because that just came across.
I'll take it a step further, because my mind was thinking, this is maybe an ancestor of Rios. Like, that this could be...
Okay, yeah, like something could be, like, to him.
Because there was, like, you know, especially if it ends up being, like, an ancestor, I don't want there to be, like, a romantic connection, obviously, between him and the Doctor, but there was that fun connection he had with the Doctor and her son. Like, I love the whole...
with the cookies?
The cookies and the badge. It's like, oh, wait, do you want some cookies? And, okay, how about the trade? And so, it was... Like I said, like the scenario was contrived and poorly written, but the scene in of itself was actually
very well acted,
well acted and very enjoyable. Like, you know, and I like that he tried to provide her cover and just wasn't thinking about, oh, my hand is bandaged. Obviously, they're going to notice it, because like he did a very convincing kind of, hey, we've got a patient, we got to take care of him. Like, do what you got to do, but let's get out of here and help this patient out. And of course, just not thinking forward enough. You know, whatever. So let me ask you about this, because this is the other scene where I liked it and I didn't like it at the same time, and that is the semi-assimilation of Girardi.
Yeah, I had similar feelings about that. I kind of ish liked it, but mostly not. Just, I don't know, there's something to me that just feels a little bit off about she wasn't able to assimilate her that fast. Like, I feel like assimilation would have been a lot faster, but I resisted. And also, I'm a little bit worried about them doing a sort of like Girardi in the Borg Queen body, Borg Queen in Girardi's body thing.
Yeah, because I think we're going to get it.
I'm not a total fan of.
The red dress scene is like, you know, when you pointed it out, I'm like, oh, that's going to be like a Borg Queen is still messing around.
In there.
Because like the Borg Queen wasn't even thrilled.
I feel like
she wasn't thrilled with the outcome, so.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know, because then you have the whole like you've impressed me, and it's like what.
Yeah.
That really feels contrived to me. That feels like fan fiction contrived of like I'm inserting my OC and look, now I've impressed the main character that I love the best. Like, so I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that one.
Yeah, because go ahead.
I was just I don't know, because I do know that like in Voyager people really felt like, oh, we really took the claws out of the Borg, you know, and took their teeth away. And I'm like, man, I don't feel like we totally did there, but you know, seeing something like this where it's like, yeah, okay, well maybe, you know, the Borg Queen's been disconnected for a while, whatever, and she's not like up to 100% or something. I just feel like everything else we've seen is like you get shot with the tubule and you immediately start getting the little things in a nanotext or whatever.
First
Like,
Contact shows how quick it is.
It's not like just a slow like little. I'm gonna sit here while we talk, because that kind of reminded me of the Sarek scene when Picard has like, you know, some of his mind so that he can have a stable mind while he's going and doing whatever he was doing in that episode. But like they're kind of having that talk. I don't know. I felt like it took too long.
Yeah.
That was another part of why it's like it felt so long, because we've seen assimilation before and it is fast.
Yeah. Well, and like it also, I think what didn't help with the length of it was it kept getting broken up. So every time like something would happen, we just jumped to B team,
somebody else,
and in Los Angeles, and then we jump back for like half a minute, and then we jump right back to B team again. But I will say, like, my favorite part out of the scene was when, you know, the Borg Queen's like, oh, you didn't get anything. And then she's like, hey, computer, open up file shit I stole from the Borg Queen. And I was like, okay, I like that. I like that part. But
yeah,
when the Borg Queen is like, you don't know what you've done, this is going to be a problem. I don't know what that means. Like,
yeah,
it's because like obviously we might get like a split personality between Girardi and the Borg Queen, but like we already got that with Girardi in season 1 when she was the spy who didn't know she was a spy. Like, we don't need to go through those same motions again
with her. Yeah,
right. So that pretty much like kind of like wraps the episode up. You've got Seven and Rafi meet up. They can't find Rios offhand because of where Rios is at. They kind of start pinpointing down where the Watcher is. Girardi gets the coordinates, and Rios gets like arrested, and that's pretty much where it is. So
that's why it's like this episode felt like really long, and that like we didn't really do anything.
Yeah, it's definitely set up. And if they can't pay off on the setups that they've done with this episode, with episode 4, it becomes more of an issue. Because, like, I think, what did I say? Like, half of it felt like it was pushing the story forward, and the other half felt like it was doing nothing.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's... Again, I don't want... Although I liked 2024 more than I thought I was going to like 2024, because that was my big concern from the get-go, I still don't want to spend more than 3 episodes in 2024, like including this episode.
Yeah, so like this episode and maybe the next episode, and then the episode after that, we're getting out of 2024.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they do have the coordinates for the Watcher now, so like then it's going to be
they have to go find them,
find the Watcher, prevent what was going to happen, and
get
then
Rios out of jail.
Right. Right. Which obviously should come with the next episode. So. Yeah, it's just one of those things of like you got a show and it is releasing week to week, so it's not like we can just binge it and go, oh, okay, that's what they had intended for it. So which quite frankly, I don't hate that it's a week to week show, because I can barely keep up with shows that do release all their episodes at one time. So I don't have much else to say about the episodes. If we want to wrap it up and talk about our scores.
Do we know how many we're getting
10.
with this season?
10. Same as season 1.
Okay, I wasn't sure. You know.
So there's still plenty of room, because we're barely, we're not even halfway through yet. So we've still got a lot of wiggle room. Oh, this was one thing I wanted to talk about too, because I remember there's the line from the Borg Queen or the Borg whatever it is in episode 1 where she says, Picard, look up, or whatever. And people were speculating that that's Picard's mother. And how could it be Picard's mother? Because she never left Earth. Well, we got time travel right now. And we don't know what we're doing. Not that she's alive in 2024, but like...
Right.
We don't know quite yet what's going to happen context-wise. So potentially a result of all of this happening is what either... she gets involved or something happens from, just even this assimilation with Girardi and stuff like that. That phrase.
Who is this with the necklace that grabs this necklace that comes through in the trailer? Like, that might be her. We don't know.
Yeah, right. So it's just one of those things of like, don't judge it on something that we haven't been given.
Seen it.
Right. Like, it's one thing to be like, how? And then if they never answer it, and it is his mother, and they never talk about how it's his mother, then yeah, that's a problem. But wait till you get to episode 10 and see if they ever answer that. So, all right, well, I'm going to go ahead into my scores once I switch us back over here. So I think I'm going to give episode 2 4.5 because I really did enjoy it. I liked seeing the alternate reality with everyone and kind of getting different than the mirror universe, typical thing that we typically see. And I just thought it was a very good setup, especially giving us a Q who is maybe slightly or a lot deranged. And seeing where that's going to go or what is the lesson. Because you and I kind of talked about it, that it could be something about overcoming that fear of
his own emotions
and opening up and actually like loving someone.
I'm also kind of, because, I'm conspiracy theory with the wall, and the strings. It's like, he's like, you never learned the lesson. And I'm like, the lesson he was trying to teach you in episode 1? What was it? And like, I've got to go back and rewatch all the Q episodes.
Yeah, we still, and it's like, well, if you've been trying to teach it for 30 years, obviously you're not a good teacher.
I'm just thinking, I'm like, we got to go back and see Troy in that crazy outfit and going like, joy and gratefulness or whatever at the end. Like, you gotta go back and watch Encounter at Farpoint.
And then with episode 3, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and give it 3.5. I mean, like, I kind of reserve right to change it based on how episode 4 turns out, because like, again, it's not bad in of itself. It's got some issues with the writing and some of the pacing between A team and B team. But it just didn't, like you said, it just didn't do much to move us forward in the narrative.
I would probably go ahead and mirror the 4.5 for episode 2.
Okay.
But episode 3, I'm gonna go ahead and just give a 3, just because it's like, it's not terrible, but like we just kind of, it's a plateau.
Right. Yeah. It's just okay. And then let's see what happens next. Like, I'm more interested in episode 4 than talking more about episode 3.
Right.
All right. So let's talk about the big thing to talk about. And
is it the big thing?
Well, I mean, okay. In comparison to how most Netflix movies are, or straight to Netflix movies are, this one's actually pretty decent compared. Although, as I see the IMDb score, I might be proven wrong on that.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's not that bad. It's like a 6.8 out of 10 for them. But I considering that, like, I really knew nothing about this movie going into it. I just knew it was a big one. Ryan Reynolds was involved. Sean Levy was involved. Mark Ruffalo, Jennifer Garner. And that it dealt with time travel, and they were kind of working in lightsabers, in a sense, into the movie. That, it was going to be something to check out. And I even, with my Cinemark, was because they did a kind of a limited actual theatrical release before releasing it to Netflix. And I had contemplated going out and seeing it, but I just kind of decided not to. Figured, just wait till it comes out there on Netflix and check it there.
And just see it.
And in general, I was pleasantly surprised. It's not, let me be clear, it's not the best movie out there, but it was very enjoyable. I liked the comedy. It's a little lighthearted. I was telling my sister-in-law and my brother that, you know, my nephew could watch it except for some of the language at his age, but like even the language isn't that bad. But one of the things I saw it getting compared to, and why some people were really liking it, was this felt like an Amblin movie, all the like Back to the Future or Last Starfighter, or not Last Starfighter, or is it Last Starfighter? I think it is Last Starfighter. Just that it was just fun, you know, and like it was taking these wacky concepts and just not taking anything too seriously. So if you're not familiar with the movie, we'll do what we've been doing with everything else, and we'll just have it play on there.
I'll put the trailer over there.
Here. And you can go check it out on Netflix, but it is The Atom Project. And the premise of it is, after accidentally crash landing in 2022, time-traveling fighter pilot Adam Reed teams up with his 12-year-old self for a mission to save the future. And much like I said about the Obi Wan show, even if this was like complete garbage, I probably still would have enjoyed it just for Ryan Reynolds' performance.
Well, we see Zoe Saldana, you know, on the screen too. She's in it, and she's also good.
Yes, and you have Mark Ruffalo. So it's basically a Marvel movie crossover.
Just about, yeah, pretty much.
You got Hulk, Deadpool, and Gamora all in one film.
Well, I feel like they've really kind of like found Ryan Reynolds like
niche.
Yeah, like he just does this like sarcastic, funny character just like perfectly, and he can do it in like every film ever, and it just works.
Yeah.
You know, so he basically just plays Ryan Reynolds again in this movie.
And that's one of those things when you have an actor who is comfortable doing that, also who puts his own stakes in the game because he's produced this, like he's involved with it directly. So it's not like, oh, I'm just doing this for a paycheck. Like, no, I'm putting some of my own money into this project as well.
Right.
And like, yeah, if you see him in this and you go watch Free Guy, yeah, it's the same, you know,
it's
director,
pretty much the same guy.
Yeah. But it is like just kind of that same, just wacky, kind of carefree, go lucky type guy. And that kind of dry humor and dry wit that he has with his delivery. And I'm thinking primarily like near the end when he's having his little scene with Zoe.
Well, the favorite line that he throws out there for me is just hilarious. I don't know. It made me crack up, and maybe that's my dark humor, but she's like, oh, cute kid. And he's like, yeah, don't you just want to hold him underwater until the bubbles stop?
That was fantastic.
Like, that is hilarious.
It was
you know?
really, yeah, that was really
That's
funny.
That's right up my alley. I was like, that is so funny.
And also like when he's talking to him with the bullies, and he's like, you look him in the eye, and you know, and you smile, and then you drop down and you punch him in the private swimsuit parts. It's like, it was just fantastic. Overall, I really enjoyed the movie. Again, the plot is a plot we've kind of seen before. It's time travel. You're trying to go back, prevent something. You've got the bad corporate guy that's kind of, you know, the reason why things are not as good as they are. Especially,
right.
I forgot to put this on loop. You know, and not quite knowing that time has been altered for them in the future, and then coming kind of to that realization, not to get like into spoilers or anything, but that's kind of just the premise of the film. And, yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like really fun, and some things that I thought, you know, oh yeah, this was easily predictable, didn't turn out to be that way, which I actually have to kind of give them credit for, because I'm like, the easy route, and to give you an idea of what I'm referring to, the car crash with the father, with Mark Ruffalo's character, you know, just, I thought that had been orchestrated because of everything we're kind of given, and you find out it's not. Yeah. You know, it is just something that happens, because it could have been very easy for them to just be like, oh yes, you know,
and now we fixed it,
and then we get the very, very happy ending, which we still get a very happy ending to it, but it's not the happy ending you kind of expected.
That you expected, yeah.
Do you have something?
Oh no, I was just thinking about like Mark Ruffalo's scene there with Ryan Reynolds and I don't know the kid's name, but 12-year-old Adam and
Walker
like what did he call him, like 40 or 30-year-old Adam something, I don't know, middle-aged Adam.
Middle-aged Adam, that was it, yeah.
But the scene between them, the final scene they have together, was just really good, and I just felt like especially, of course, not that the child actor is bad, but that Mark Ruffalo and Ryan Reynolds really did a great job with that scene.
Yeah, and kind of one of the central themes to the film is grief. I mean, and it's not just like familial grief. There's other factors of grief that fall into it. And talking about kind of those poignant scenes, because you're bringing the Mark Ruffalo scene up, the scene between Ryan Reynolds and Jennifer Garner at the bar.
That was good too.
Very well done. Although I can't see it kind of playing out in real world, because I would kind of think that a single woman would be kind of like
creeped out immediately.
Like, yeah, but it was they both beautifully acted it, especially kind of him when he's getting a little teary about it, and kind of just the one thing Ryan Reynolds can do really well is vocal inflection and convey kind of, even when he's being comedic, like hurt and grief and pain and suffering, but being that type of character who's like, oh, but I'm all right. Like, I'm not really suffering. But then you can hear it, and his voice betrays that deep pain in him. So yeah, you start off with kind of the beginning scene of him stealing the jet and coming back in time, and then, we get introduced to 12-year-old Adam, and who's horrible to his mother, who's doing nothing but trying to be a good mother.
Jerk.
Yeah, that's one of the good things I really like about this is older Adam, or middle-aged Adam, is like trying to impart upon his younger self, like, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah. Do better.
Yeah. God, you gotta understand, like, she's hurting and you're hurting, and you will regret this later on. I know for sure.
Yeah.
And I kind of like this whole thing with the plane, because like he's injured when he lands, and the plane won't let him work on it while he's hurting, and so he uses his younger self to be able to access the ship. Now, one of the things that did bother me in this film, for the most part, CGI is pretty decent. Nothing too special, but the part that really bothered me, and I know that this was a point of contention for some other people, because I saw some people bringing it up in articles, the de-aging of Catherine Keener in this film. When we go a little bit further back than 2022, not to spoil anything, we do see a younger her, and it's kind of like the Luke Skywalker at the end of Mandalorian season 2. It doesn't look great. At times it looks passable, but then at other times it looks really bad. I don't know if you caught that.
I feel like if you're like intensely watching and paying attention, you'd pick up on it. But if you're like, you're sitting, you're drinking your drink, you're eating your popcorn, whatever, you're scrolling on your phone, it's not an issue.
Okay, so I was intently watching, so that's my fault. Because I was sitting
like
there.
if you're like intently watching, or if I'm like casually watching, I've got my graham crackers, I'm like scrolling, it's not that big of a deal.
But yeah, it was just one of those things where it's like you can tell like they had a fairly decent budget, but they saved most of it for the effects of the ships and the batons.
Right,
and stuff.
And that's another one of those like you've only got so much money. Right. Where are you spending it?
Right. But yeah, overall it was very enjoyable, and I think again we are living in like a very contentious and dark time, that a movie like this, and I think why some people are liking it a little bit more, is for the fact that none of that's involved. It is purely just, hey, we're telling a fun, semi-family time travel movie. Science
fiction. Did this do better than Don't Look Up with J-Law and Leonardo DiCaprio?
I can't tell you yet, because I know it did just like kind of like release this week.
I'd just be interested to know, because I did watch that one as well, and it was a good movie, but it was also depressing. I don't know if you watched it.
I've not brought myself to watch it yet.
Well,
I do
you're talking about like the kind of depressing theme, or so like that one definitely had a more depressing ending, where
Right.
this is definitely like an upbeat, like sci-fi. Here we go.
Yeah, it's
Time travel,
You're
fun.
not worrying about war. You're not worrying about global warming. You're not worrying about inflation, gas prices, work. It's just a fun, like, hey, let's just tell a fun sci-fi story. And
Right. Whereas Don't Look Up is dealing with everything.
right, and like, there's nothing with like, woke politics or there's no politics, quite frankly, outside of evil corporate, machine.
Evil corporate overlord.
Which, like, hey, we know Amazon. We understand. We know Disney. We understand.
Every time I think about that, is it a Black Mirror episode, or no, it's one of the, I don't remember what it's called on Prime. Okay. But it's based off of Philip Dick, the guy who wrote
Electric Dreams.
Yeah, yes. Did you watch the episode about like production, which basically it's Amazon, but they don't say it's Amazon? But I think about that episode
I don't
when
know,
I see stuff like that, like
I had
Amazon and Google are going to be our corporate overlords.
I had a hard time getting into that show. It was difficult. I watched
that
a few
particular
of them.
a few of them. Well, that particular episode is like there's stuff everywhere.
Okay.
Everywhere, and there's people, and they're trying to like get the machine to stop making stuff, and it's like completely automated at this point, and there's drones that just bring the stuff. So like.
Oh, I don't think I finished it. But
yeah,
that does sound.
I don't
familiar.
I don't know if to give too many spoilers away, but let's just say once they break into headquarters, they find something they don't expect, and haha, that's the twist and everything, right? It's something you don't expect.
Well,
but no, when we think about like Amazon's going to be our corporate overlords, I just think about that episode a lot.
One that you would also kind of enjoy, and this will be one of the rare few Doctor Who Chris Chibnall episode. Well, I don't think he wrote the episode. I can't remember, but with the Chibnall era of Doctor Who, which is not great, but they did kind of that thing too, where like there's an Amazon kind of world, and like the people that are working there are like slaves and stuff, and then someone's trying to break the system, which was actually I liked the episode because it is kind of relevant and current to today. But yeah, that's the thing with this show with this movie is, outside of that, there's no political themes. It's a theme about family. It's a theme about dealing with grief. It's about, not changing things that are supposed to happen, but also changing things that happen that weren't supposed to happen, in a sense, without giving too much away. I did like that scene too, where they're eating, and they're eating in sync. Like, they've got the food separated exactly the same.
I liked all of, pretty much at the beginning when he comes back and meets his younger self. I pretty much like all of that, where he just like takes the bat right away from him. The kid goes to pass out and he just grabs his shirt. I'm like, how many times did they do that? Seeing, did he ever miss and he hit the foam mat or whatever,
Well, and like, that one of the funniest lines too is like when they're talking, and he's like, so, do we meet any girls in college? He's like, seriously, we're talking about this, and the question you want to know the answer to is, do you get laid? And he's like, I'm not answering that, and he's like, it does happen. It's like, come on, of course, like a 12-year-old
boy.
Yeah, a 12-year-old would be like that. But another concept too is kind of the time echoes. I really like how that kind of plays out without going into spoilers with the film. That was really cool too, because it again hits a little bit harder and home with the themes with family and stuff like that. So I just really enjoyed it, and I guess there's not much else to really talk about it. I thought we'd be
because we don't want to give too much spoilers away for it.
And it's relatively new. It just went up on Netflix like this week or this weekend, so it's one of those things where I felt like I've said some things that could be a little spoilery, but
still plenty. There's still plenty.
Yeah, and the nice thing too is it's not too long and it's not too short. It feels like adequately paced and adequately timed.
Yeah, this would be like if you do Friday night movie night, get your pizza, and sit down and everybody watch this one. Like it's
not
a good one.
It's not the Batman length where you're sitting there for 3 hours watching a movie.
Right.
There's really no there were no moments I was bored.
Mm-hmm.
I was very much like into the movie as soon as it started. I had to pause a couple times, but like that was to get a drink or get food. But that was a good sign. Like if I'm not really into your movie, I'll just leave it running while I go grab my drink.
I can do it. Yeah,
yeah. So I was like, I really don't want to miss any of this. And it just was that line too. You always said you wish you met me when I was
when I was younger. Yeah.
And I have to give Walker Scoble like a little credit too, because I think he wasn't perfect at doing it, but he was trying to do it too, where he was trying to act as Ryan Reynolds would act as a 12-year-old. Like he was trying to do the same vocal delivery, how Ryan delivers his lines as a 12-year-old. And you can kind of tell at points it felt a little forced, but like I got to give him credit because he's like, I am the younger version of this guy. And that's not going to change at any point. Like I'm always supposed to be this little smarmy little jackass of a guy. And
I like when he was like looking at him and he's like, it's like we traded our muscles for our brain for muscles. Yeah.
Because he comes up with the one concept that didn't cross his mind at all. It's enjoyable. It's fun. Everyone brings, I think, their A game to it. And I also kind of like this little bit here too, where like he's even able to recognize Ryan Reynolds.
Oh
as
yeah, I
his
was
son.
like, he recognizes him immediately. We don't have that weird like, who are you? You look kind of familiar. He's like immediately Adam.
Yeah. Yeah, like he has the moment in the lecture, like as he's talking about the song and or the line, and he's talking about it being actually a lyric from a song, and you get that the gears are moving, and then immediately it's like after the gears moved enough, when he goes to actually talk to him, he's like, Adam, and it only took you 44 years to take your son to work.
To work.
Fair enough. That was also great. Like there's just great fun lines. And talking about Mark Ruffalo, like he's a guy who I don't like as a person, like how he acts out in the real world, but I love Mark Ruffalo in films. Like I love when whatever film he's in, I typically will watch it because I really like him as an actor. I like how he delivers lines. I like the characters he portrays. I mean, he's basically Bruce Banner in this as well. So it's just, a little bit Bruce Banner, just not Hulk Bruce Banner. And, and that's the thing, like, I think a lot of people have that problem of separating an actor who is vocal out in the real world, like Matt Damon, even Leonardo DiCaprio. Some people just can't isolate that and go, okay, I don't like whatever their personal politics are or whatever they say. So therefore I can't watch their movies. I've never been that way. If I were that way, I couldn't watch this. I couldn't watch Taxi Driver. I couldn't watch Django. And like that's the thing too. Like with Leo, I don't like the guy at all personally, but my God, the guy makes great movies.
Yeah, I think we just live in a time where like I don't know. I feel like there is a correlation between the rise of social media and its like web into our lives and how the generations like after ours became so like ingrained into it that then everything must be judged. Mm-hmm. Like I do know there was a study done that like this, what are they calling them? Gen Z, I guess, or Centennials or whatever, are actually Zoomers. Well, are actually more bullying than our generation was. Mm-hmm. Like to each other, and they're supposed to be the tolerant group, but they actually did a study that proved like they're so much worse to each other than we ever were.
Yeah, because of the anonymity of social media.
Yes, it's like when you give a person a mask, he'll tell you the truth, like that sort of a thing. But dang it, where was I going with this? You threw me off my train. I keep trying to remember where I was going.
The study with
yes, yeah, because I feel like before, in the before times, even just like our times, so we don't have to go back that too awful far, okay?
We're not that old.
In our, right. But you were able to do that. You were able to like, we don't really know that much about this actor, whatever. Like, you had to do some work too if you wanted to like be keeping up with people, like reading the magazines and every little article that they were in and listen to all their radio interviews and whatnot. Well, you don't have to work that hard to keep up with them now.
Right.
But now, because it's so prevalent and it's so in your face, and because this generation of people is so judgy, incredibly judgy, that it's like, I always think about, if you've watched The Good Place, when they get to that scene where they're talking to the judge about the tomato, like, I wish like that could be like a thesis study for somebody of like, because they're talking about a normal average Joe just walks into the store to buy a tomato. And all I want to do is just buy a tomato. But now you're making me think about, well, is it organic or not? Who are the workers on this farm? Do we know if they're approved or if they're all immigrant workers that are only making peanuts? And is it this or is it that or is it this and this and this? And it's like, I've starved to death by the time I'm trying to figure everything out because all I wanted was a freaking potato tomato or whatever it was.
Who owns the store? Who's selling the product?
Right, like everything. Who was the truck driver who drove it? Who was like, an abusive husband or something?
Right.
Like, there's so much stuff that gets all attached to this tomato, that then you get negative points or something in The Good Place, for buying that particular one.
Right.
And that's what society has really become, because they're like, well, I can look up and see that you made a video where you said something really stupid 10 years ago when you were 10 years younger and really immature, and now I must judge you for it now. And it's like, but irrelevant of the past 10 years or how much you've grown or changed and matured as a person. But you did that 10 years ago. You did that 20 years ago. Like, we have to bring everybody to the mat for every dumb, stupid thing you've ever done, as if nobody has ever done anything dumb or stupid.
And I'm going to be clever here, and I'm going to tie that into this movie, because that's his central thing, too, is like where I came from. And because he does judge himself. He judges his father, and then it takes the younger him to be like, so you don't remember this. Oh, yeah, he did that because he didn't want to spend time. No, that's not why. Yeah. I begged for him to buy it. And it's, it is that kind of thing of, you've come so far, and then you look back on the past with foggy colored glasses rather than rose colored glasses,
or dark angry glasses.
and you don't take into account that people do grow and people do change and people do have their own opinions. But
that's why it's right now it's difficult for them to separate like actors from like the person, their job, from the actual person. And like, how much do you actually even know about that person anyway? Like, you don't know them personally. But yeah, that's why it's, in this day and age, it's really difficult for people to do that. And they're like, well, how can you do that? I mean, there's always going to be somebody who's going to say you're not enough of whatever it is. Like, you say, oh, I'm going to do, I'm going to be vegetarian now, and I'm making all these choices. Well, are you this? Are you this? Did you eat that? Or did you do this? Or did you buy your food from here? And you'll never be good enough for that extreme person who's always going to judge you for it. Like, and, this is the internet. Yeah. There's always going to be somebody, and you will not be, you're not as vegan as I am. You didn't do this, or you haven't changed all of your clothes, to non, cruelty-free whatever items and things like that. There will always be someone. So even when you're watching movies like this, and they're like, how could you watch I don't know, throw in somebody's name. How could you watch a so-and-so's movie? It's like, it's just a freaking movie. Life is complicated enough. To go buy that tomato.
to even quote the movie, like, ever heard the saying, every bully has a bully? Like, yours isn't doing their job. Know? Oh, that's another thing. It's just because that popped up in my mind. Poor Chuck. He's like, shut up, Chuck. What did I do? It's like,
you're standing there, Chuck.
Exactly. You're there, Chuck. But yeah, it is one of those things, and I think I wasn't even thinking about that in the context of this film, but this film is almost an example of that in a sense. Again, kind of going back in that revealing aspect for the Adams of going like, he aspires to become the older Adam, but the older Adam kind of wants to get a little bit back to him in a sense. And he wants to fix some of those things.
He wants to get back to him so he can change things.
Right. And yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like you look at the real world and you go, well, if I'm not supposed to like this person's politics or what they say on Twitter or what they say on Facebook, I can't enjoy any of it. I can't, just because Discovery is a garbage show because they over politicized it means I can't enjoy Picard because it's made by the same people. No,
Right.
that, like, and yeah, there's some of those problems with Picard too, but like not as pronounced. And I think that you come in there with that prejudgment, and you go, well, because Patrick Stewart said something about this, about white privilege. Well, he's betrayed everyone at that point. And it's like, no, that's one, he's just an older man who's trying to stay relevant and, culturally safe rather than going up on the pyre. Because we see, like, I think about all of the movies I own that are Weinstein Company films, and you go, should I burn all of my Weinstein Blu-rays and DVDs because of Harvey?
Right.
Like, I hate what Harvey did, but they made some good movies. Like, their production company did good movies. So yeah, it is one of those core things, and it's again part of the reason this podcast kind of came around. Whether we reach people or not, it's just nice to be able to talk about that and go, yeah, I can acknowledge Mark Ruffalo has some bad takes, and he might have some personal issues, but put Mark Ruffalo in a film and the film looks interesting, you got me. Like, I'm going to see it because I like him as an actor. Ryan Reynolds gets a little bit more kind of like leeway because you never see him like talking on social media about trying to lecture anyone. And
no, he's always just joking.
Yeah, he's just the good guy. Like, he is just who he is and who he plays on camera. I mean, and he could, as far as we know, he could be a complete garbage human being outside of what we see presented. But right. I think like that's that level of privacy actors should have, and maybe they shouldn't reveal as much of what they personally feel about things, especially when you get into that divide of you're a multi-million-dollar actor. You own 6 mansions in 6 different states and a house or a villa in France. And you
how in touch with reality are you?
Right. And you want to lecture me about getting gas for my car to get to work. Like, it's just one of those things where, like, yes, at one point you weren't that person. You didn't have that multi-million-dollars, but that person was far removed from who you are now. And I don't know.
Yeah, you don't even need that much of a disparity,
right.
Because if you look at like not even the exact, I'm just thinking about like our work, maybe like our great grand bosses or something. Like even when you get to that far, it's hard for you to remember where it was when you were entry level.
Yeah.
And that's not even anywhere near the tippy top of our organization.
Right.
That's just like, 2 or 3 levels above us.
Well, you think about, not to get too in the weeds with what we do with our personal jobs, but we're going through some changes with our systems. And it's like, we sit there and we go, yeah, we weren't consulted on this. And maybe if you had consulted us, we wouldn't be having certain issues we're having. Because
it would have gone a little smoother.
Yeah, you look at it and go, oh, it's going to streamline a lot of work. It's a lot simpler, blah, 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 blah. But then when you get the people who are actually in the guts of the thing, they're going to go, you didn't account for X, you didn't account for Y, and you didn't account for Z. And now we have to scramble to like make that work.
To fix it and make it work.
But that's a weird ramble and tangent that, we managed to get off on, which, hey, I don't mind getting off on tangents. But getting back to the movie, again, and it said it here a couple times with some of the little critics quotes. Like, it is kind of a throwback to Back to the Future and E.T. and kind of feels a little bit like a Spielberg film. And it's just enjoyable. It's just fun. It's a good, like, even with sexual content, there's not that much sexual content in there. So you can easily watch this film with, I'd say maybe even a little bit under 10, but like pretty close to 10 and up with your family or your kids. It's a good family movie. Would love to just like sit down with your kids, your mom, your dad, and just watch it, and just it allows you to forget about the world for about 2 hours. So to kind of wrap up this very disjointed and tangent-filled review,
we were unprepared today.
Well, me more than you, but to give a score on this, I think I'm going to land on a solid 4. I mean, not that what I would dock points off for really take anything away from the movie. I think I do have an issue with this particular scene because I'm like, how does she not hit one tree? Like, there were several times when she's like driving it in reverse. I'm like, you hit that tree, you hit that tree, you hit that tree. Right. But like, yeah, just the thing that bothered me the most a little bit was the de-aging for Catherine Keener's character, because it just didn't. It really looked weird to me. But like you said, if you're not paying very close attention to it, you're not going to catch it that much. So
yeah, if you're not like intently watching it, because I'm thinking about like my score, I would go ahead and say like 4.5 out of 5, just because I'm thinking about it. Like I said, like if this is like you do Friday night movie night with your kids or something, you order out your food, everybody's sitting, you're watching but you're not like intently watching, if you're scrolling through your phone because maybe sci-fi isn't your thing, but your kids are interested, that sort of a thing. Like 4.5, it's good. Like you said, it's, you get to live in a different world for a couple hours and just enjoy it and have a nice movie night. And I'm trying to go through it in my head. I don't feel like there's anything, like you said, and anything too bad for like you said, 10, 11.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is PG-13, so.
Well, like
but like a mature 11 or 12-year-old would like it.
Like, I mean, my nephew is 6 going on 7 here this year, and like I think as I said to my sister-in-law, it's like language is a little bit in there, but like there's no F-bombs. In fact, he stops him right before he says an F-bomb. So like it's like no, not that. But yeah, there's really nothing in there that's gonna be like, oh no, because I don't know if you watched it. I don't really intend on seeing it. And I know my sister-in-law enjoyed it, but like that Turning Red on Disney Plus, I know a lot of parents are kind of upset about it because it's talking about it's got some mature themes in it for a kid's movie.
Well, I haven't like sat and watched the whole thing straight through. I have watched like a condensed version.
Okay.
And the thing for me is like, I feel like, yeah, it's a silly movie, but I think it's very obviously, and I mean, like, I don't know how you could not know that it's about menstruation.
Yeah.
And getting your first period.
Yeah.
Like, it's so freaking obvious. But, I mean, as far as, like, people have said they thought the movie was cute, but then, like, I'm like, I don't know how you don't realize that. Like,
yeah, because
when you're watching it.
A lot of, like, parents that were very upset and very angry.
I guess there's also that difference in then, like, the parents, because you're older, you immediately see that, whereas like the kid probably is not putting 2 and 2 together at all.
Well, I can tell you, I remember seeing Shrek in the theaters, and I did not get nearly half the adult jokes when I saw it years later, when I'm like, like, I know, because you're trying to write that humor in there because parents are going to be seeing this, and you want to get a giggle out of them and not have them be like, oh my god, I just sat through an hour and a half Smurfs movie and it was all just Smurfs, but you throw in a couple little jokes and innuendo in there, and there is this kind of thing of like, if you're that concerned about it, or if you see parents kind of talking out about it, watch it yourself first, then make the decision.
Yeah.
Don't just blindly let your kid watch the movie if you're that worried about it. Or if you feel brave enough to talk to your kids about it, make sure you have a discussion with them about the subject.
Right, like it's not like that bad.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world, and it's not as bad as I think some people try to make it out to be. But in comparison to this film, like this has very little of that. Whereas, like, if you're going in as a parent and you're kind of concerned about any sexual themes, there's one scene. There's one scene, and then some lines of dialogue, like we talked about the "Do I get laid in college?" line. Like that's about it. It's a lot, pretty much just whatever, and just make sure you also don't have a mouth goatee, or not mouth mullet. Because that was an interesting little bit of line, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot more than what I expected. And I've watched a few of the straight to Netflix films, and they're not all winners, and I don't necessarily expect them to be high level cinema.
I have found that the quality of their movies is like way up from when like DVD day. You know, when you're like, oh, this is straight to Netflix. Let me order that DVD on my next thing, you know,
Right.
and you tap tap tap, and I'd watch some, and I'd be like, this is crap. It's no wonder it went straight to.
They got to justify that price hike every year, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
Got to put that money somewhere. But yeah, it's. I think it's very enjoyable. It's one that you just don't have to take it too seriously, and you just have fun with it. That's it was fun. The comedy was great, and you know, again, the movie might be complete crap to you, but you'll at least enjoy Ryan Reynolds' performance.
Right.
You know, it's him playing himself. He's kind of got that Will Smith factor to him, where when you see Will Smith in a movie, or if you see Denzel Washington in a movie, they're kind of playing themselves, like just that character you're used to them playing, and I really like that about him. He's very versatile.
Even after I finished watching this one on Netflix, I did go ahead and just do a Ryan Reynolds search to see what else of his was on there. You know,
Did you watch Free Guy yet?
Yes, I did.
That's a very good one too.
Yeah, so I added a couple in my list that were on there. Just be like, let's just watch some more Ryan Reynolds because he's hilarious. He delivers. He's so funny.
Even if you go back to the really bad Green Lantern movie, he's one
right.
of the
it's on there.
Yeah, he's one of the shining parts about it.
I thought about it, but I was like, do I want to do that to myself again? I went to the theater to see that.
I did see it in theaters. I didn't hate it as much in theaters as I did once I watched it like at home
later
several times. And go, there are problems with this film.
Right.
And none of them were Ryan Reynolds. You know, it was a lot of other things that went on with it. But yeah, I have to recommend it. It's definitely a highlight of Netflix films. You know, if you're really kind of like not sure about, and you know, there are, surprisingly enough, like, I mean, a lot of people like to crap on Netflix, and I do occasionally when it comes to their programming, but when it comes to some of these movies, they have some ones that, like, even if they're a lower budget, they're pretty good. I'm trying to think of the one I really liked, and I'm not a huge romantic comedy guy, but When We First Met, I believe, is the movie with Adam Devine and Alexandra Daddario, and it's time travel in a sense as well, but more multiverse type thing. And it was really enjoyable and really cute and funny, and just like, you know, no one would take it seriously because it's straight to Netflix.
Netflix, yeah.
If they keep up this level of quality, I think you'll start seeing a turn.
A turn for more, for better.
Better.
Well, I had to look up the name so I had it right, but yeah, if you want another Ryan Reynolds one, that's good. If you haven't watched Red Notice, watch that one.
That's actually one I have not watched yet.
Yeah, with Dwayne Johnson and Gal Gadot. Mm-hmm. That one's good too. So he's in it again, smarmy, hilarious, smart jerk.
I might have to put that on tonight after we get off.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
But yeah, I don't have anything else to really say about it, and I don't know if we have anything else we want to talk about.
Any wrap up topics? Well, we did watch just like a little Easter egg for everybody. We did watch the trailer for Ms. Marvel.
Yes, I've got some thoughts on that, and you know what? Since you brought it up, let me pull it up.
Well,
here.
I have seen like a vast array of people of like upset about things or liking things, and I'll say first off, this is not a character I'm familiar with whatsoever. I know that she's a newer character, and I know that stereotypically or conventionally or whatever, in the comic, she has like basically Mr. Fantastic powers, embiggen powers, stretchy powers.
She is. Oh, go ahead, finish.
Well, I was just gonna. My one comment I wanted to say, just to get it straight out there, was that again, that's my level of familiarity with the character, and then watching this trailer that we have on there now that you could still no audio. My first thought was, number one, it looks like they're changing her powers so that they look similar to Monica and they look similar to Carol. Like, I feel like they're doing a thing where they're trying to have them all have similar-ish energy, sort of-ish based powers, so that it makes sense when they're all in the movie together in the Marvels movie. That was my thought. That's my only thought.
So, yeah, she's in the comics because like I can say that, and you know, people can hate me if they want, but like that's my big problem right there, the bracelets.
I heard somebody say they think they're nega bands.
Well, and yeah, that's potentially, you know, that's again, this is what's going to be my problem with it because I picked up the first run of when they introduced her. She's an Inhuman, and I really enjoyed
that
her.
right there is why they're not going to do it.
Right. So
she's
that's
Inhuman.
That's the problem because they don't want to do Inhumans.
Well, he's not gonna.
Right.
He's not gonna.
Well, that's because of all the backlash between.
Yeah. So like as soon as you said that, oh, she's Inhuman, there's 100% they're not gonna do that.
Right. So she's an Inhuman. She has polymorph powers, so she can embiggen, she can stretch, all that stuff. This actress, I don't think she'll be bad, but she's not who I envision playing Kamala. Because I don't know. She either looks a little too young or just, I don't know. She just doesn't quite fit it for me, what I envisioned, an actor playing a role. Now, I'm not saying she won't be good, because she does look to be conveying a lot of what I would expect Kamala to convey when it comes to emotion, awkwardness, and being that kind of teenage super fan. This is why way back ago, when the Marvel Avengers video game came out, I was like, Kamala is kind of you, like super fangirl a little bit, because she is kind of the modern nerd and fangirl. Like obviously Captain Marvel is her favorite hero. I know some people are trying to cause a little bit of controversy because the actress playing Kamala apparently back in 2019 wrote a very scathing review of the Captain Marvel film. I don't care because
it deserved it, probably.
Well, not only did it deserve it, but like a lot of people had the same opinion. So I'm not going to have an issue with that. Now, as for the bands kind of giving her powers, I need it to be that she puts them on once and that gives her the powers and she doesn't have to have them on all the time. Like so far,
okay, like she doesn't always have to be wearing them.
Like when she puts them on and whatever radiation, negabands, whatever cosmic powers they give her, they become a part of her permanently. I'll be okay at that point, but I don't want it to be this contrivance of, no, she has to wear them kind of like the Iron Man suit to be able to have access to her powers. Because
I can see that. I can be down with that. I still think when you see the look of the powers, though, does it not remind you of like kind of what we saw with like Monica, and then because I feel like they're trying to do a sort of like a theme,
right.
And then like all their powers are similar-ish. I do feel like it would kind of be weird to have Monica with like her powers that are energy and stuff based, and Carol with hers, and then to have Stretchy Girl. Like I do feel like that does kind of not make sense.
But it does look like they're giving her a little bit more also cosmic, because like we saw her in the trailer walking on kind of those platforms of
the energy.
So yeah, it's. I'm cautiously optimistic. I know a lot of people, of course, are taking the whole route. Well, she's, I believe she's Pakistani, and that like, oh, we gotta fit that diversity and everything. But let me go back and be clear. I really enjoyed when they introduced her in the comics. I read until I stopped collecting. I was picking her issues up every week. I just loved her character. I loved her being this. Oh, I'm just a, fangirl. I'll never become a hero or anything like that. And then, of course, because of the Terrigen Mist, now finds herself to have powers. So she models herself after Captain Marvel, who is her favorite hero, takes on the mantle of Ms. Marvel, which, we don't get that kind of legacy passing with Captain Marvel in the MCU per se, but I'll be excited for it.
Yeah. Well, I think it looks good, and it does. It's sort of giving me that like Spider-Verse vibes of like the cartoon style and stuff. I like that they're kind of playing around with like a lighter, like funny. She doesn't seem as angsty as Spider-Man's an angst.
Especially after No Way Home.
Right. But like they're kind of doing something a little bit different, a little lighter, it's got some funny, At least that's what it looks like, when we're watching and we're seeing the little heart bubbles on her face, like.
So yeah,
I
that's
I like the direction that we're going and what we see from here.
I'm assuming like we're gonna get a lot of that in the show itself, because it's gonna be her doing the imagining, like him like
right.
snapping his fingers, getting her snapped to attention. So when we get those little moments of like the hearts and the 100s and stuff like that, that's all in her mind perceiving the things how she wants to perceive it, which again fits in line kind of with the character. And I'm really interested to see the dynamic she's going to have with her family, because her family in the comics was very traditional, and they don't really want her to be kind of, especially in becoming a hero and stuff like that, they want her to be a traditional Pakistani girl. And I think if they're going to do anything, they're going to kind of do a little bit of the relationship they established in the Marvel Avengers video game, where her Abu, which I'm assuming is her father. Don't get me wrong on that. I'm not familiar completely with that culture or anything, but I know that's what she called her called him in the video game. I wonder if we're gonna get a little bit of that dynamic there, where he's a little bit more supportive, like wants her to be cautious, but also just be like, hey, be you. And I think the costume is going to look fine, especially with that image there with her on the light pole. Like it looks like it's going to be pretty well designed. And that's the one thing I got to give Phase 4 a lot of credit for, because for the longest time, the studios thought, we can't have them dress up in the costume straight from the comic books. Who's going to take them seriously? And now they're kind of going, people really want that, and we're really transitioning. Like, just even with some of the art images we've seen of, Jane as Thor looks going to be like it's going to be straight from the comics. Her outfit in this looks like it's going to be straight from the comics. We got Scarlet Witch, Doc Strange, Spidey's even gone as far as basically going back to his original costume. So I kind of like this transition of going, actually, they can look fine. We can make it
right.
We can make it look functional while also making it look directly like it is from the comics.
Yeah, well, I like the comparison of Wanda with like a very, very comic-y version of her outfit, and then bringing it to like, but this is like MCU real world in universe what it would look like. I like that.
Versus because just her wearing a red jacket.
Right. Calling it done.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of liked it because like Moon Knight looks fantastic. Like his costume looks great. Even with what they've done with the Netflix Daredevil show, well, should I say Disney Plus Daredevil show now, they did a utilitarian look for it, but while also being fairly comics accurate. And I don't know, did you hear the reboot rumors for Daredevil?
No, I'm just, I don't know what's going to happen with, some things might get rebooted, some things I don't know if they were going to do it, like.
So it really depends on what they mean by reboot. Like, do you mean, are you just relaunching a season 1, or are you rebooting it in the sense of you're picking things back up from the end of season 3 of Daredevil and post No Way Home and all that stuff, and moving his character forward that way? Because I think like people initially just hear reboot and they go, oh crap, like it's going to be, they're just going to change everything up. And I'm like, well, if they were going to do that, they would have censored the Netflix shows when they came over to Disney Plus, and from all reports, nothing's been censored. So I don't think that they're going to go, yeah, we moved them to Disney Plus, but they're still not going to be technically in continuity, and we're just going to start, over. I think they're going to be like, okay, we've got our blueprint, these things happened, now let's go ahead and just kind of start anew, but have that be part of the legacy and history for the characters moving forward. Like the events that happen. And I saw one other, this was like a fan art thing, so I don't think it's actually true, but like for Armor Wars, like that they were going to have John Barenthal as Punisher in it and having a Punisher Iron Man suit, like, which would be really cool to see, but I'm like, I think that's a little wishful thinking. But yeah, I'm really interested to see how this is going to be. Like I said, I'm not The actress doesn't look how I would envision Kamala to look in live action, but I'm not going to hold that against the show, and I think she will still do a good job. Because everything else like that she portrays within the scenes we're seeing is Kamala. So like, I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, that's about all I gotta say about that. I don't know if you got anything else to say about it.
No, it looks good. I'm excited to see it, and I'm so interested with this phase of how we're doing more shows than movies.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we're getting a lot of good content and how they're all connecting together because we know eventually she will be in the Marvels movie.
Mm-hmm. And then we got
go
ahead.
Well, I feel like this is a really good way that they're like hitting a stride with these, that this is like almost the most perfect way that they could introduce new characters, let us get a little bit attached to them, and then bring them into a movie instead of us having to like suddenly fall in love with a character in an hour and a half or whatever, and have no other time with them whatsoever.
And cram in an origin story,
Mm-hmm.
And like that's the thing. I think I'm pretty sure I've said this to you, but I've said this for the longest time, where I see shows like this being the future for the superhero genre. If you can kind of bring a movie style budget to even just a 6-episode, maybe 10-episode max season, so you can not have to spend all of your budget, or figure out how to spend a more finite amount of budget for that many episodes. But this is the best way to tell more complex stories, to give us more character background. Just look at Hawkeye. WandaVision's the biggest one, because WandaVision was able to show us a lot more of the dynamic between Wanda and Viz, and also fill in gaps that, people were always like, well, how did they just all of a sudden are kind of a couple by Endgame?
Infinity
War. And here we go. We get like a scene that we never saw in Civil War. Or actually, it was pre-Civil War, post-Age of Ultron, where they have a moment. And you're like, okay, those were the seeds. And now we can understand in retrospect how that all works out. And the shows allow this. Like, Hawkeye got more character development in 6 episodes than he got in 6 movies,
Right.
So, and introduced new characters and new concepts and brought characters back. And, No Way Home does such a great job, but you also have to worry about how do you fit in all of these characters and worry about your story feeling too jam-packed or overloaded. Like, that's kind of my worry with Multiverse of Madness, is like, you've got all of these potentials and you've got all these things you're setting up, and like, it could be really great, but you're setting it within 2.5 hours, 3 hours max. How do you not, cram it and make it feel bloated or forced, or, no one gets the right amount of screen time, right? So
now, I'm wondering if we're not going to get a total happy ending wrap up with that movie too, because we have the shows.
Yeah, I don't think
we
will.
It's not going to be we've completely solved the problem. I feel like it's going to be like the little Dutch boy with his finger in the dam. Like, we put our finger in this one hole and as we're watching the cracks. Yeah. We're watching the cracks and stuff and going, oh no. Yeah.
Well, and we know we got Kang coming, at some point with Ant-Man and Wasp. So it's, I think these, and this is the other thing too that I think it does a really good job, is keeping you interested in the lull time between movies. Because like we're going to get Moon Knight to kind of carry us through basically till we get to Multiverse of Madness. And then we'll have this carry us through to maybe whatever comes after that. If that's Thor.
Love and Thunder, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. And then we'll have like another one, She-Hulk by that point, that might get us to Black Panther 2 or whatever the next lineup is, and so on and so forth. So, it's also a smart move, because you can go, well, we can still tell stories set within the timeline and in the frame and keep people interested, rather than, okay, well, now I got to wait 1.5 years till the next movie comes out, and then I'm going to forget everything that happened prior, where this kind of keeps everything kind of fresh for you. I still kind of also hope that at some point they will release these all on physical, because as me being kind of a physical collector, I would like to get these and have them as part of
Like,
my collection.
actually have the Blu-ray or
because
I was honestly just thinking, I was thinking about that, and then like I can see my DVD like where I have the shelf over there,
Mhm.
and I'm like, because I'm thinking I don't have a copy of Shang-Chi over there. Like,
I do.
yeah, but I was just thinking about that, and then when I thought about that, I'm like, we're not going to have copies of any of these if they don't ever do a physical release. So,
because I mean, I would even want to do it for Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett and all those as well.
yeah, because then I'm thinking like, do I continue to be a completist with my collection?
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to bother if we're never going to get physical releases of these?
Don't tell me about Eternals for nothing.
I wasn't planning on buying Eternals.
Oh no, I did. So, and that's it's like that's one I got to revisit too, to see if I have maybe a different take.
Well, we can revisit it when we finally get there in our franchise review.
Absolutely. So, well, there was a little extra added topic that we didn't originally have planned for this, so that's always good. I think it's basically time to wrap things up here.
We're like what, few minutes to 8.
Yeah, so we're in just a smidge early, but we hope you guys, especially with as kind of quick and rushed as I was getting everything set up for this, because I was, like I said, I was going to be the lazy one and be like, nah, we're not doing one tonight. So, I'm really excited for everything. I liked all the stuff we talked about. I'm looking forward to more Picard. I'm looking forward to, the Obi Wan show. I'm looking forward to Ms. Marvel. Definitely go check out Adam Project if it looked interesting and if we talked about it sounded interesting. And
if we beat it to death,
or if we tangented to death, but I think that's going to do it this week. Thank you guys for tuning in, whether it was during the live stream or listening to this on demand afterwards. We're going to try to keep doing these on a regular basis, so I will have to force myself to be more proactive and work hard at doing things better, because I got a new mic I plan on getting, a new board I plan on getting. I got to learn more stuff with OBS. I'm going to try to reach out to some people to create some better overlays for us. So we just continue to plan on improving things. But if you're watching this on YouTube, whether now or in the future, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like, comment, share, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. Follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. I know we're not really active on those because I don't have time to be super active on them. Or subscribe on the audio versions. We're on iTunes, Podbean, basically wherever you get your audio podcasts. And that's going to do it for us this week. We will talk to you guys next time.